Okay, so what are some of the priorities of the operation and delivery department? What should they be?
Accuracy. Delivering material. Signature capture. Picking and packing the orders.
About communication. About treating our customers kindly. Because they're face to face with the customer. What do you imagine some of the top challenges or frustrations of the operation and delivery department are?
I would say having to deal with the traffic and stuff on the road. People. Having the correct inventory.
When they go to a job site and we forget to put the contact name and number on it.
I was thinking
That's a good one.
delivery addresses.
Mm-hmm.
No one there when you have tons of material, nobody to help unload. Which is not always our fault, but
Right.
it does happen.
About poor packaging from our suppliers.
Mm-hmm.
Joe loves that one.
Yeah, when you see some of the boxes that they get in, and everything's
that?
just,
It just
But-
happens. I
yeah,
mean,
it just
Is
happens.
there a certain
Guys.
vendor that?
No, sometimes they change their boxing and it's like poor quality of cartons, and when they have multiple cartons in a box, and it just, if it's not packaged correctly, it's all loose. And you have to
especially,
repackage it.
yeah, every once in a while, like Bilco, when you have like a box of like 100 little small things, and those boxes aren't sturdy, and if they get jostled around, they break open, and now they're just all over the place.
Now you can have 100 pieces, and then you have to sit there and count them all.
Some vendors like to push the envelope as far as how heavy they packed one box, and yeah.
About vacation scheduling. Early AM delivery times, trying to make it work.
What's one of the biggest things this summer?
Heat,
Mm-hmm.
A lot of heat.
a lot of heat.
I feel for those guys down there. Oh my God.
Or, they're out in that pipe yard when it's raining,
Or
snowing.
snow.
The pipe still needs to be picked and put on the trucks. In the dark. What does your department appreciate when the operation and from the operation and delivery department?
When the order's picked correctly. The signature capture,
Love that.
when they follow the delivery instructions for sure, like if we bag and tag something or.
Good like receiving what you're in when it's received. Please.
My department sometimes wonders why the operation and delivery department,
I don't understand that.
you wonder why they might do something a certain way. You wonder why, I don't know, orders need to go in a manifest, or you wonder why they deal with UPS receiving first, or wonder why. Is there anything you wonder why?
Oh, I took it wrong then, because I put like this boxes on the floor and.
Well, that's
fine.
yeah, that's one.
Wonder why some orders do get picked wrong.
Because nobody's perfect.
Well, I know that, but.
I'd
Yeah,
say
I mean,
there's-
I'm just saying
There's a
that.
flip side to that coin. When it's entered wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna
You
say,
know, I mean,
can be
there's-
entered wrong.
Counterpoint,
Well,
point,
for our other-
counterpoint.
Why transfers are picked multiple times a day, why we have a run schedule, why they don't ask questions, why they don't communicate with sales, and why they don't help to solve problems. Is there any other wonder whys? My department supports the operation and delivery department by. What is your job? How do you help?
Putting in correct locations. Name and phone number.
Entering correct items, so there's no return.
Lisa, I know you probably help them. How do you support them?
Well, by, checking the receivings, make sure all the items are on the correct order. Checking pricing.
Okay, filling in, problem solving, running reports, providing good info and notes, simplify purchase orders as much as possible, supervising personnel, setting up the runs, communication, getting proper information from the customers, and paying attention to the detail. On the flip side,
Oh my God, there's another side.
yes, I want you to review this. This is an order, a dummy order. I want you to review this and see circle anything that you see as a problem or a question or something that just isn't quite clear. Doug, do you have a copy of this? Okay, I just wanna make sure that, because I don't have the one that has the answers on it, so I wanna make sure that you're gonna chime in.
I have the answers, I have the ones I have circled.
Right. So does anybody have one of the things that they might question or see as an issue or a problem on this order?
Lots.
Okay.
How many do you have, Lise? How many items do you have circled or question marks beside?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6.
I have 9. Some of them are a little
Yeah.
run together maybe, but,
Yeah.
all right, what are they?
First off, COD at the top should be also in the shipping instructions. That's where we always put it. And then whoever in the warehouse highlights it. There's no customer contact name or number to call there. It just says call for delivery instructions 24 hours before delivery. As far as an early AM delivery required, we always have to check with Hilbert first. It says bag and tag with customer part numbers. There's no customer part numbers listed. MTR is required. That should be, the MTR line should be after each item or underneath each line attached. The quantities of the pipe, like the first one, should be 105 feet, not 102.
Those your 6?
Well, it's actually more than
That might have been 6, more than 6.
Anybody have or anything else that would, a question mark or something would alarm you to?
Doesn't have an order by name on.
Yeah, I saw that too. What about that weight?
That's one I have circled, Lisa.
Now, why would you say that? Because without looking in the system, I looked at that, but I couldn't say whether that
Because
weight's right or
The
wrong.
4-inch pipe is gonna.
Right, well,
It's just
but
it's-
it's more
it's-
for the trucks, in my
So
opinion.
you're saying it would be
I
able to
mean,
go on the
that's
truck?
about a capacity of one truck.
Right,
truck, which I have some notes here, I'll go over with you on some of that, but question that me as myself or Hilbert would maybe answer to is Lace hit the nail on the head there at the 102 feet. But then we go down and we're having, all of a sudden we have 4-inch T and C. Well, that 100,008, that's divisible, that's 48 sticks, but it seems like almost everything else is welded.
Yeah,
So I would kind of say, and we don't sell 100,008 feet of 4-inch T and C in a year's time.
Nice.
I would say.
So I'm kind of like, you sure that's right? I would think that might want to be plain at. Mistakes happen. The other question I have is 60 pieces of 3-inch short radius 90. There again, we don't sell many short radius 90s, and so the short radius would be a question mark. And then down at the import on the 4x3 bushings, that'd be a question. Not that it's a big deal. Maybe we don't have the domestic or the anvil, so we're going to sub with the import. So, I mean, but it's just little things like that. And then the last one I have, everything else is standard weight, then we have an extra heavy malleable T again. So, but it's, you look at that, a lot of things jump out at you. It's, could this
But
be
do our
right? Could
guys
this be
that
right?
pick the orders, do they really look at that kind of stuff?
No, but the
They don't.
bosses do. I mean, Hilbert or Betlyon look at that kind of stuff when
They
guys
don't, but
do.
they would maybe come and ask us about it too. Are you sure this is right? I know Rich has come in already and asked questions sometimes, and not that we're second guessing anybody in inside, but sometimes they're as human. You guys are the
Right.
ones that mess it up, And when you're talking a 12,000-pound order, especially like I said, 1,008 feet of that's off the pipe almost alone. That's a truck going over, and if it's supposed to be plain end and we got to bring it back, there's a truck wasted taking pipe over it once, bringing it back, unloading it, reloading it, so.
But see, there as salespeople, a lot of times we ask that stuff.
Right, and
You know what I
as
mean.
well you should, right.
Right. Yeah, this is just an
Yeah.
exercise to
Yeah.
look at what could be wrong with this order, because with an order that size, you want to make sure it's right, because obviously, like you said, it's going to probably take up that whole truck. So,
And then catch it before it costs us a lot of
Yeah.
money. That's the key, is
Right.
catch it. Whether it's an extra heavy T, should have been standard, or 1,000 feet of pipe, it's gonna cost us a fair amount of money to correct the problem.
And one of the things I circled was the ship via. Nothing should be saying best way. It should be a truck run. It should be a
Oh,
truck,
yeah.
a truck, an Adams South, Adams North,
Right.
Lancaster, Harrisburg.
Or our
It
truck.
should be saying something. Well, even our truck, I don't think it should say our truck,
Oh,
because
and it says
we have a
best
truck
way.
run schedule.
I would think that, to me, best way means that it's going
Common carrier.
common carrier.
Well, but it doesn't say that.
No,
So,
So you want us to actually, a lot of times I'll just say our truck.
but don't you have a truck run schedule? Aren't you supposed to look at your truck run schedule and pick the run? Because when the guys pick it in the warehouse, they need to know where they're slotting it at. So they pick
Well,
it and do
automatic
what?
comes up, though.
It's
some of them do,
Job
but there's a
sites
few
don't.
that don't.
Yeah.
All of them should, because if they don't, we should be made aware, because we went through and changed every customer to be what it should be. Unless if you guys are changing the ship to address, then of course, then you need to change the ship via to what it should be.
And that might be the only time.
And we've changed the whole
ship
truck
to
run
address.
schedule too. We've added a bunch of,
Yeah, there's actually 35 different ship vias set up in the system. Now, some of them we haven't used in 20 years because we still have one when we had a tractor trailer on our transfer truck. It still says ship via Larry's,
Quick trip,
which
what's
is
that
a
what that meant?
Larry's.
I thought it meant Larry Shuffenford.
Quick.
quick trip.
Oh, I don't know.
Quick Trips in there also is one of them. We haven't used them in probably 15, 20 years. I don't even know if they're still in business. But
I think the only time it doesn't come up is when we're going to a job location,
When you're changing it.
when they're telling us to ship. And nobody ever really said that we had to pick Adams or, nobody ever said that.
I thought that's why you guys had the truck run schedule.
Just to see what days, but nobody ever said that we were to
Oh.
physically, when we go to like Columbia Gas goes out to new development, nobody ever said, and I'll make sure if you change that, you need to pick the correct truck run.
Because Doug is gonna explain to you why that's important also a little bit later down, why that ship
That
via
was
is
never
important.
clarified. So I think that's the only time it doesn't come up.
Thank you for your input on that. Now, we're gonna have Doug discuss a day in a life, start to finish, of what a driver does in a day.
I'm gonna start with both. I'm gonna actually start
Okay.
with out in the warehouse from the kind of conception of an order, once the Phantom takes care of printing it, through the process of being picked, staged, packaged, up to the ending of starting the manifest, and then I'm gonna kind of give you a day in the life of a hardship of a driver, what he has to face and everything. But I looked up in Mr. Webster's dictionary what the definition of operations was. And it's saying that it's a process of action such as addition, subtraction, or transposition in accordance with specific rules of procedure. And also it's a method of productive activity. So hopefully that's what, as a company, we want to function to be as best and efficient as we can, financially, as far as saving money, doing things right the first time, and everything else. So that's what Webster says the operations, the definition of operations is. So, like I said, I'm going to start now and walk you through once a Phantom prints. You know, you salespeople inside pick it how it's scheduled once the Phantom prints. And I think our Phantoms run every 10 minutes, Lisa? 5 minutes. So it's first one prints at 7 a.m. Right away, every order, if you have a shipped when specified date, it would print. You know, if it's for tomorrow, it would have printed at 7 o'clock this morning. And every 5 minutes, as things are being received, as orders are being taken, all this and that, it prints out.
Now, the ship available is print out after 12:30. So anything that's not a ship available will print, but we try to wait till after 12:30 once receiving's done. That way, if there's multiple different vendors on an order, they don't just print every time it gets received, so.
Right, and once that Phantom prints, all the papers are hanging on there. What happens next is, simultaneously, I guess it happens, but all those orders then go to a queue. And the reason for the queue is to make sure that, number one, the order's printed. It's the basic reason. Because we could be out of paper, it could be jammed.
Bag and tags, we can easily print bag and tag labels from that queue.
But what actually happens is after we tear off the orders, and we got to sit down and go through the queue and delete every one off the queue, that physically somebody's had a piece of paper in their hand. Now, can that lead us astray? Absolutely, because sometimes your fingers just get happy going in there off delete. Well, what if all of a sudden you ran out of paper? And I think Lisa said there was an instance one day where that had happened. There was more queues than what we had paper. And we went, now how do we even know what order it was for? We have no idea.
Took me hours that night
No
to figure
idea.
out what orders we were missing, because somebody confirmed them off the queue, and we didn't have the paper, and they were already confirmed off, so.
Several hours. And, you know, that's nobody's issue in here, so to speak. That's out there. And we have Joe Lamb and Rich, Hilbert, myself, and pretty much all, I think, that queue off orders. And there again, this is more Hilbert's department than mine, but like the Farmers Insurance commercial says, I know a thing or two because I've seen a thing or two. I've been here 31 years almost, and there's not much here that I haven't seen. So after the order's queued, that we've confirmed that it's printed, we look down over the orders pretty much like you're looking at this. Briefly look down over them, just see something that might pop out at us. We highlight material if it needs to have MTRs or NAFTA sheets, early AM deliveries, whatever. We highlight that. We also even go sometimes where there's a lot of black. I think Boiler's one where they'll get black fittings. All of a sudden there may be, Now's Foods is one that gets, there's a galvanized fitting or two stuck in there. So we'll highlight, even that little stuff will sometimes go ahead and highlight, especially if the majority of the order is black and all of a sudden there's one line of galvanized. So little things like that, and this is only, there again, it's not to insult anybody's intelligence in the warehouse, but when you're in a funk out there picking an order, when it's 100 degrees out there, your sweat dripping on your paperwork, you know, you get into these lulls where it's like, oh, this is all black, and you go down, and that's how we have picking errors. There's a million reasons to have picking errors. They're not all founded errors, but there again, this isn't a perfect world. And until we go robotic, then none of us will be here. We're always going to have mistakes. So after that's done, we look at how big the order is. If it's a multi-page order, we can run what we call a pick ticket. And what the pick ticket does then is puts stuff in numerical sequence by location in the warehouse. But we also have zones in our warehouse. I think there's about 12 zones in our warehouse. So what the system does, it looks at this pick ticket and it will pick all the weld fittings or the heavy stuff first. And there again, like I said, this isn't for a one-page order like this one would be. This would be for multiple pages. We've had orders up to 30 pages long, where in that case, we know it's probably going to be a crate or a gaylord. That material is picked first, so it's in the bottom of the order, or of the crate, I should say. Then after that, we'll go up and do like the malleable stuff. And the last area that it prints is up here in the mezzanine, where most of the light stuff is, where our gauges are at. Our glues are in one of those sections, where that stuff gets packaged on top. Because there again, if you're picking down the sheet, you're bouncing all over the warehouse. This system, or this pre-pick, it takes you, while you're in that aisle, you're getting everything in that aisle. And it generally starts in numerical sequence by product, from like a 145,000 to a 145,7000. So anything in that section, it goes down through, and while you're going down there in your cart, you just keep working your way. And once you're done that in that aisle, you won't be back on that order to that aisle again. You pick everything that's in that aisle while it's there. But like I said, it's probably going to start you back in the back, for the heaviest stuff first. Then you work your way up through. And I don't recall how it does. It may get the stuff that's kind of in the center of a warehouse, or it comes up underneath the mezzanine, but I do know the mezzanine's last. So after they go and pick all that stuff, then the fellas tag the crate, tag the boxes, mark in their paperwork with the number of crates, number of boxes they're picked by. At that point, they would go in and get any NAFTA paperwork or a CFC paperwork, attach it to that. If it requires heat numbers, it usually goes to Kim, sometimes the writer of the order, sometimes myself. Hilbert or Joe can get them sometimes, depending on time allowed. But then we staple all that stuff together. And then that's actually what the drivers look at when they go to deliveries down here at the bottom. What they're unloading. I think Williamsport's a little bit different. They put theirs right on their manifest. They have over here, instead of at the bottom, they have on their manifest how many bundles, how many boxes, crates, coils, whatever. And if you look at the bottom of our order, I think it's what, boxes, coils,
Cartons.
bundles, cartons, boxes, whatever. So then after all that's done, then they put it in the bottom of the basket out there. At which time Doug or myself or anybody else, once it gets full, they bring them in, basically just laying down the table. We segregate them by truck run. We send out 4 trucks. At this point, 1 truck delivery area has 2 trucks going to it, but we just throw them all, the Adams County, whether it's north or Adams South, into the same bin. And we talked about all orders have a default ship via, and some of this, which is here in York, basically it's Adams North and South, Harrisburg, Lancaster, York. Those are pretty much primarily the branch ones. Like I said, we have 35 different ship vias that are built into the system. And what the problem some of that causes is and it's something I was going to talk about with the drivers also, but job sites are the real big problem. Because if it says to ship to Byler Hydraulics at a job site, when these guys go to MapQuest this or Google this in their systems, it doesn't come up. Because it's saying ship to Byler at such and such an address. Well, that's not where Byler's at. It will default them to their home office. So they're kind of blind. You know, if it's going to go to ABC Extracting in care of Byler, I think it comes up, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't use a GPS. I don't use my phone. I like Pennsylvania maps. That's all I had when I was driving, so I work by a map. But that's why the ship via is critical, but it also has some things in when we come to running pre-picks for pipe, because if it's not right to pre-pick, we use our basic 5, and I think we do use OT. But if you have on there a best way, the system doesn't look it because we're not searching for best way when we pick pipe. Basically, all that means is it's not pre-picked when the guys go out to pre-pick pipe.
Well,
It'll be caught at the end of the day, which is another subject down the line here I have.
I guess maybe what they need to know is when they're picking orders, they skip over the pipe.
Yeah.
They don't pick the pipe at the time the order prints. Like it's picked at a separate time of the day.
Yeah, we don't pick pipe until they're that leads me up to this is about the 9th step already here, believe it or not, but periodically, then during the day, we run a pre-pick for our pipe report, and that's branch specific, basically for branch 1. And it picks out all pipe, tubing, copper, anything that's basically in a unit measure of foot for the most part. Not 100%, but for the most part. But there again, that's all contingent on in product maintenance. If you recall setting up over there in the right-hand corner, it says product select code. Pipe has to be in that. Now, I know most of you people can't load pipe anymore, at least the feet and inches part of it.
Yeah.
But when we run a pre-pick for pipe, the system's looking for that word pipe to be in that one little spot. And if it's in there, it prints out in their pre-pick for them to start to get together during the course. And they'll go out maybe 2-3 times a day to start getting this pipe together. And then they bundle it, set it aside for later on this evening, which then is another step. But anything, like I said, DOM tubing, structural square tubing, all that stuff needs to have a product select code in. Basically what we do is we figure 4-inch in diameter and at least longer than 6 foot, because rod we lay up here in the run. But there again, 12-inch, if it comes in the carrier from Kelly, tractor trailer, Murphish, somebody like that, it's going to be unloaded out back. So that's where the loaders need to do it. If it's unloaded up here at the dock, but every morning I get a report of all the products that the salespeople create, and I got to scan that and make sure that that's in there. Now, when I set up pipe, I know Bob does too, we basically, a lot of times, will copy that, which carries it over. But if we don't copy it and we build a whole new product, we need to put that pipe in that select code, because bottom line, what can happen is once they come back in and fill in their pipe at the end of the night, and they see a blank line on the paperwork, we didn't even get this. It wasn't on my report. Now, all the trucks are away. Now they got to get a truck out back again, pull them out of the shed, because you can barely walk through this between the trucks. That's how tight it is in there. And you can't bring it in from the back because they're back against the racks. So you got to get a truck out, get the forklift back out, go out, find the material, and load it back on. That's part of the hardships, and there again, that's kind of another issue with the loading crew. But so, you know, it's imperative that the word pipe shows up in this stuff, and like I said, it's copper, it's coils, but to be honest with you, I'm kind of the last hopeful to catch that kind of stuff as I'm looking over the sheets, but we miss them, you know. But, and where's the fine line? It all depends on what the product is, you know. If it's 12-inch pipe by 6 foot long, you know, that could come in a box truck, but it probably ain't going to stay up here in the dock because of the weight of it. It's not long, it's no longer a thread rod, but, you know, the weight of it. So then at about 2 o'clock, we'll look at the truck runs. We start breaking the truck runs down individually and determine what can go UPS and what can't go UPS. And a lot of things that weigh into this is what is the weight of the package? How many packages are there? Is it in even our truck run delivery area? You know, we'll have stuff, Tina used to have some for Mezzo that went to, not Cuba, where the heck did that stuff go? Brick grease. But, you know, so we'll go through all that stuff. And sometimes, you know, it's just not financially gainable for us to deliver a package when you back order an 1/8 by close nipple. It's going to cost us $5 a UPS regardless. So, and if it's 20 miles out of the way, then a driver can be 20 miles in another direction. This doesn't behoove us to deliver that box. Years ago, we had issues where we used to have our boxes laying on the bed of the truck. Well, DOT stations started pulling us over, or you got to pull into them when you're driving. And we were getting fines because we didn't have our packages strapped down or tarped. And that's when we went about 10 years ago with these totes. Well, it does help because they are semi-waterproof, but when it's pouring down raining over a course of a day, you're opening and closing that tote, getting out 4 boxes for this customer, 1 box for that customer. It gets wet in there. But it sure does beat the days when I was driving where all the boxes were laying up on the bed and they were soaking wet. You pick them up, the bottoms would fall out of them. So, you know, sometimes we'd make the decision out there that we're UPS in this because we're not going there, or somebody will have an order to ship when complete. That item comes in on a Tuesday afternoon. Well, we don't go back to Frederick until Thursday. Is that part of customer service? They're going to get it a day earlier than they would if we waited on our truck. Well, we're going to go to that customer on Thursday. Maybe, maybe not. But, you know, still when you're driving down there, do you hold up a $3 product that it just, we've already lost our money on? You know, and that's where Bob needs to order more. Damn it, Bob, don't have this stuff. So then after each truck is broke down by driver, each driver will come in, they have their own specific spot that they will take that clipboard every day. That's for their truck. Now they look on the top of it to see what truck number they have. But then at that point, we'll start running a manifest, delivery manifest also, and a pipe manifest. Now this pipe manifest now is specific just to that truck. Whereas earlier in the day, we're running it for all the trucks. So you may have, you know, 25 orders in this manifest that the driver or the loaders and pre-pickers of pipe need to go out and get together. Well, at 5 o'clock, we run a manifest now. This is specific just for this truck. Now they know what needs to go on this truck. But the problem with that is, when we put them in on the manifest, it puts them in sequence that they're delivered. That's why we sit there and juggle this, and it's also loaded that way. But when we're loading it, when it comes to the pipe, we need to load the truck backwards. So at the first thing of pipe that goes on this truck is actually the last delivery of pipe being made on that truck. Same way with our boxes. We work down over the top, picking boxes out here in the run, we put them in the tote, fill out. We don't put a second pipe, each individual paperwork for the drivers, and then they lock up, head off on their way. The problem with it is big orders at the end of the day. If we were to get this war dropping kids order at 4:30, that just screwed up my whole day. Pretty much for everybody, because, and I will talk about that in the truck weight, but when you got a 12,000 pound order, that's about as much as one of our trucks can haul legally, give or take. So get a late order out at the end of the day. Now there's a whole truck committed. Now instead of having 4 trucks, I got 3 trucks. So that's one of the hardships, again, of, you know, how we set that up. And that's pretty much what it requires. That doesn't require everything that the warehouse, the loaders, they're all out there multitasking by possibly helping at the counter, helping doing inbound receiving, cutting and threading pipe done it today, which we didn't do 2 years ago or a year ago roughly. You know, so that's kind of this conception of an order, how it's being picked, how we decide. When I say we, it's Hilbert or myself for the most part set up runs, how we suggest we go. And, you know, there's always another way to get someplace. You know, how do you get there from here? Well, there's always options. I'll talk about that when it comes to the drivers, which I will now move on to the drivers. But another fact I wanted to just share with you was, so far this year, York has 16,000, this is up to the end of July, York has picked 16,783 orders. That's approximately 60,000 lines on those 16,000 orders. We've driven 4 York trucks plus a 450, but that doesn't go out on a daily basis per se. 4 trucks have approximately 93,000 miles in 7 months. Comes out to about an average of 168 miles per truck per day. In retrospect to Williamsport so far until the end of July has 5,258 orders picked when printed. They have 18,800 lines, and they have basically 3 trucks, but you got to take into consideration that 1 truck runs at least 200 miles a day just coming back and forth to us. They've driven 83,000 miles, so we got about 10,000 miles on them, and they're averaging about 199 miles a day. There again, that's pretty daggone close with the transfer trucks running. I think the mileage is a little bit higher than that. So I just wanted to kind of share those numbers with you on what our drivers are doing out there on the road, what our warehouse is doing about orders being picked. Then that's going to take me now to the kind of the day in the life of a driver, which some days is fun, you know, days like it's nice out, it has its perks, but some days it doesn't. So right now, York has 4 trucks. They're all 24 footers, 6 speeds with an air brake endorsement. We have 1 truck 3 of our trucks are 26,000 GVW. An empty truck's gonna weigh anywhere from 12 to 14,000, give or take. Full tank of fuel, which we can put about 100 gallons in our trucks, with the side racks, with the driver sitting inside of it when we pull on the scales. So we look at approximately 12,000 pounds to put on a truck. Now this is gonna be give or take. And our CDL truck, which is a 33,000 pound, can haul about 18,000 pounds. Now, our trucks, because they have air brakes, you need to have a medical examiner's card. Anything over 26,000 pounds is when you need a CDL license. So, but one of the job requirements pretty much when we fill out when we put applications out that we need is a driver. We just kind of make it mandatory because 99.9% of the time a driver will have his own truck every day. But if there's one order that goes to Haverty Grass, Maryland, which is Troy's run, I'm not going to send Kevin if he has a heavy truck because he's never been down there. He has no ideas where he's going. So we'll swap drivers and trucks that day. But there again, it doesn't happen all that often. And along with the medical card being then DOT requires that you get a physical every 2 years. So every 2 years, our drivers have to be get physicals every 2 years. They also are drivers in a consortium of random drug and alcohol tests. That I think it's every quarter, our names are in a hat, and it's a private independent company that will send in like every 3 months, say, hey, Bob Wentz and Betlyon need to go have a drug test this month, or go have a drug and alcohol, or just alcohol. Being that there's only basically 7 guys in it, you could get picked 3 times in a year. And it might be 2 years till you ever get picked again. But that's part of the thing. So a driver will come back, and I used to say it, but now it's more so Hilbert. Guess what, Mike? Today's your lucky day. I need you to pee in a cup. Refusal to do so is almost asking for trouble. Right away, all the lights and sirens are going off. Well, wait a minute. Well, I might have smoked a little weed over the weekend. I know I'm not going to pass. Well, hey, in my opinion, I think everybody should be drug and alcohol tested. Not just not for a pre-employment fit, a new job position. That's my feelings. I know a lot of guys that work at other places in New York County, and I know what they do, and I don't have to worry about that. DOT also requires that on our pipe it be strapped down every 10 feet. So when we haul a piece of 21-foot pipe, technically we should have 3 straps on that. Every 10 feet we have to have a strap. So like I said, at 21-foot pipe, 20-foot pipe, plastic or copper, you can probably get away with 2 straps and DOT wouldn't bother you. The tie downs should be checked after the first 50 miles of delivery. Generally for us, for the most part, we don't go 50 miles before we make our first stop. Williamsport may, especially like the transfer truck. And then after that, about every 150 miles, you should stop and recheck your load. Or at any time you get out of your cab, for whatever reason. You stop at a Jiffy or a Sheetz or something to use the restroom or whatever, and you're walking by, it only takes a second to yank on those straps, make sure they're all tight. DOT also allows 4-foot overhang on our trucks. So before we need to flag, put a red flag on the back, a red rag. We used to get some flags from Wheatland, Saul Hill over the years, Laclede. We put that on the back. And if there's a flag on it, we can't drive at nighttime. But normally we don't drive at IPS at nighttime. Maybe a little bit in the winter months when the guys start at 6 o'clock. But if it's over 4 feet, then it needs to have lights on it. And to my knowledge, that's never happened here. But some of our seamless randoms come in, and depending on what kind of load we have, we may have to put skids in the nose. And we got now a 24-foot piece of pipe. I don't know if Lisa's going to go over that then, but we have a little thing here. So another thing that is that the driver's always got to be thinking about. And this is something that even myself, when I get out into a truck, I got to constantly be weighing on my mind, is we just can't, 7 bellies is for instance, bridge heights. Our trucks aren't tractor trailers. But I'll tell you what, you go under the bridge of 7 Valleys, you're probably going to rip the top of the cab off, or at least the bulkhead, because it's like 10 feet 9 inches. But it's something you always got to think about. I never like trying new roads to say, I wonder where this road goes. It seems like that, or yeah, hey, it crosses. I travel this road all the time. That'd be a nice shortcut. Well, you get back there and you find out now there's a bridge there, it has a low clearance. You just can't turn around in the middle of the road like you can do a K-turn in your vehicle. You gotta have to back somewhere into somebody's driveway or into a lane or another road. You know, you just can't turn them around. And that being said, also, you got weights on bridges, especially these old back pumpkin roads. And you get over here in Lancaster County, I mean, the heaviest thing going over them is a horse and a buggy. Well, if it's a 4-ton bridge and you're taking 18,000 pounds over it, good luck. You got to also remember that in our trucks we have a rear tail swing. That when you're passing a car going to make a right lane and they're in, let's say, like up here at IPS. Over here is a good example, right over here at Loucks Mill Road. The guardrail's right there, traffic's sitting right there. You come up, you got to go out into that intersection to make your turn. You can't start cutting too early because what's going to happen is your rear end, because of where your wheelbase is on your truck, your rear end's going to come over and it's going to rip the guy's mirror off right beside you. I've seen it. I did it once. I learned my lesson. Blind spots. You see all in the back of these tractor trailers. If you can't see my mirrors, I can't see you. Lisa and I saw a pretty horrific crash coming down 81 last week from Scranton, and you can only speculate. Could be hundreds of reasons what happened there, but blind spots are a tough one. It's not so bad in a straight truck, but you see it on the back of almost every tractor trailer. But it's another thing you got to remember as you're driving down the road. Same thing with intersections. You can't just start turning. You're not turning your car. You got to swing out into the intersection with our truck because of the length of the wheelbase. If you don't, you're going to curb your wheels, you're going to blow a tire possibly, your load's going to shift when you hit that curb. And I know everybody's seen it, and probably every one of you in here has done it in your car at one time or another, but you hit a curb. And again, depending on your weight on, stopping too quickly. Even though you have that stuff strapped down, because the weight of the order, or whatever you have on, this order here, you're not going to get stopped in a timely fashion like you can in your car. Just things you always got to be remembering as a driver. And there's plenty more than that. I just wrote down 7 off the top of my head. Some of the driver hardships that we have are obviously the snow, the rain, the bad weather. Job site contacts, we talked about that. Not having any, or can't even get a hold of them. AIS up at PPG, they can't even hear their phones ring because where they're at, there's motors and stuff running. I was there for hours trying to get a hold of somebody. I finally called back to the office. Well, when you call an office local, it's one thing, but when the company's out of San Antonio, Texas, well, I don't know. What are they going to do? You know? But those are problems. How a big load, the ore drop order, may be unloaded. I've had everything from cranes to Caterpillar tractors to backhoes to farm tractors and good old plain muscle and forklifts. We have traffic jams, accidents, just traffic in general. You get up in Harrisburg at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there ain't no accidents, but traffic's just that heavy that you're sitting still. Plus you throw an accident into the mix, you may be sitting on the interstate, you may be sitting still for hours. You just sit there because you can't turn around. And I've saw it more than once where you actually get out of your vehicle and you're standing talking to people parked around you because you can't go nowhere. That's all it takes to make one delivery, you know, behind the 8 ball. Especially if it happens first thing in the morning. Detours, road closures, all that stuff come into effect. Your GPS doesn't tell you that. I think maybe some of them might, but you don't know. Well, I didn't know that road was closed, and especially somebody like me that gets out who drives maybe once every month. I love orders that say, if no one's there, lay pipe in driveway. I want to run down over here some of this stuff. 1-inch steel pipe weighs 1.6 pounds per foot. That's 35 pounds in length. No big deal, right? We're going to double that size now to 2-inch. That weighs 3.6 pounds per foot, or 77 pounds per length. 3-inch is 159 pounds of length. 4-inch is 227 pounds of length. 6 inch is 400 pounds, 8 inch is 600 pounds, and 10 inch is 850 pounds. That's steel. So we start getting up to that bigger stuff. I know you all can appreciate, oh, that's probably got to be pretty heavy. But now let's jump over here to plastic pipe. 1 inch Schedule 80, one's 20-foot stick weighs 8 pounds. No big deal. You get up to 6 inch. Now we're talking 109 pounds. 6 inch Schedule 80. You get to 8 inch, 165 pounds, and 10 inch PVC pipe weighs 245 pounds for a length. That's Schedule 80 plastic. Oh, plastic's a lot lighter. I like it when it says, if no one's there, lay it in the driveway. Trust me, you don't lay this stuff in the driveway, people. We shouldn't have to ask for drivers to do that kind of stuff. So what are the options we have? I can name a few. I've done them all. You can slide it off the back, let the end fall down. It's probably going to take a chunk out of their blacktop. You can leave it fall in the grass. Still going to take a chunk out of the yard. Pull out from under it. When you pull out from under it, you can't just be putting along, because if you go too slow, it's going to come down and hit your ICC bar. The other thing is, you pull it back so far, on the slide it back, and the wood doesn't, and the pipe's laying on 4x4, so you can get forks under it to load or unload it. It doesn't slide real easy on the wood. So a piece of 6 inch pipe, 400 pounds, 20 foot long, 21 foot long, trying to slide it off the truck, yeah, it can be done. But if you get it back there, once you get it onto the metal, when it has a seesaw, it'll start to tilt it, it'll slide in that wood. But once it's or on the metal of the bed of the truck, it's going to start going. You're not going to stop, lay it down. The other thing you can do, and you can't do it with 6 inch, is grab that end and keep sliding it until it's about that far from falling off the truck. And in winter months, you can't do this at all with PVC. It's sitting outside, it's going to fall, and you can't just drop it on the ground because it's going to break. It's going to shatter like a toothpick. So then you got to get up and lift the other end off. Another alternative is take all your side racks off. That's if the pipe is loaded in the proper way that you can roll it off. Oh, it's real easy. Just get up on the bed of the truck with all your side racks off and push it off. Well, you got to push it in the center, because if you push it back here at the back of your truck, when it happens, when that falls off the truck, that end's going to hit first, and this end's going to come down, and it's going to do one of these things where it bounces. Now, only do it once. It only does it very quick. But I did that years and years ago, and it bounced up and hit my fuel tank. Fortunately, it didn't cut through my fuel tank, but it had a nice curve of piece of pipe that hit it. You learn that real quick. There again, you can't roll that stuff off, especially plastic, in the winter months. It'll just break when the ground's frozen and the pipe's brittle as it is. Drivers are responsible for fixing their own racks. They come back after a day out on the road, they bring all their returns back. Another headache they have is they get to it, they get to the shop, well, that's still on the job site. So now they probably didn't waste a trip going there, because they're probably making a delivery there. But that's part of the hardships. Or, no, that's all right, you're at the job site, well, I went back to the shop. Delivery times and orders is another problem. We can only try our best to get there. Like I said, I kind of gave you some examples of what could cause an order to be late, or we get there, we're going to have a crane there. You know, we've all been late to work because of traffic, because of weather, whatever the situation. It's kind of like the Pennsylvania guys that work out the State Department. Give them a break. You know, it's not easy being a driver. It does have its perks, nice days, short skirts, you name it. You know, it all works, but it's still, they're just earning a paycheck just like yourself. So that's all I have, Lisa. Thanks for your time. I want to thank Ian for having me.
Any questions or something you don't understand? I hope it was beneficial enough. You might have learned something about delivery and operations.